Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stoltz, I'm the Emperor of Stomaria, and today I'm very pleased to announce that we're in the process of concluding two separate trade agreements, one with a citizen of the Empire of Eternia, and the other with the Commonwealth of Dunland. As many of our supporters and followers will know, the Empire of Stomaria has always sought to establish a trade network between Micronations and Micronationalists in order to reduce reliance on contributions to the Micronations that we're a part of, specifically utilising the silver Stomarian stablecoin, which is the first micronational money in the world. And I say money, and I'm talking about sound money. I'm not talking about fiat currency, bits of paper printed off at home. I'm talking about commodity money, where the value of the money is derived from the commodity itself. So the idea behind all this, as I say, is to attain greater levels of self-reliance and in turn self-determination. And we have taken steps in the past in building these links with other micronations and micronationalists, such as the Kingdom of Wayward or the Kingdom of Athua. But we have now recently expanded that to a particular citizen in the Empire of Aeternia and with the Commonwealth of Dunland, the latter of which I'm very excited about in particular. But we'll cover the Aeternian citizen first. So as many of our supporters and followers will also know, we attempted a trade agreement with the Empire of Aeternia last year. So it was December 2021, in which we sent them in good faith silver, Stomarian stata, and some merchandise with the expectation that they were going to be sending some copper ingots and some of their own merchandise to us as an exchange. And that never happened. They received our goods, but they never sent anything back. And to this day, in case anyone is wondering, and we do occasionally get asked about it, they have yet to send either our silver and merchandise back or the promised goods that they said they were going to send. The original reasons and the rationale that they gave for this was that they lacked the time to put these copper ingots together. And when it became apparent that they were never going to be ready and they were never going to be sent to us, we requested that the silver stata and the merchandise that we sent be returned to us, at which point they said that they lacked the financial resources to do so. Now, keeping in mind that during this time, they had recently announced that they'd spent some $12,000 on the purchase of some land, and since then, Emperor AP and several other Eternians attended MicroCon 2022, traveling across country to do so. And so this idea that they lacked the time and the money to fulfill their obligations and their debt to us was incredibly disingenuous and frankly a lie. And the souring of relations was complete and absolute, because this attempt at building a trade network with a micronation outside of the British Isles was squandered. It was a complete debacle, and they took our merchandise, they took our silver, and they never returned it to us. And so we were naturally quite hesitant to get involved in that kind of process again. However, there were, during this time, when all of this was kicking off, several Aeternians that approached us to actually offer their apologies, their sympathies, and even to cover the costs of the merchandise that we had sent to get that sent back to us. we refused because it wasn't their debt to pay. Private Aeternian citizens should not have to foot the bill for the actions and the activities of their government. Now, with all that in mind, one of the citizens that actually approached us was a gentleman called David. Now, David is the blacksmith of Aeternia, and he actually puts together a lot of the ingots that Aeternia, I believe, sells or utilizes in some form or another. But that's all by the by. We decided that it would be worth approaching him directly to see if he would like to put some ingots together for us in return for silver Stomarian status. He was something that we trusted far more than Emperor AP. He seemed quite genuine, and he was quite keen to ensure that the ingots were sent and received by us before we sent any Stomarian status to him, and we appreciated that, because obviously the other way round led to some problems, let's say, with Aeternia in the past. So they have put together some copper ingots for us. They've sent me a small amount of video footage and some photos, and these are going to be sent out to us. And once we receive them, we're going to be sending David Stomarian status. Now, this would represent the first trade agreement that would have been completed with a micronationalists outside of the British Isles. But it's a bit of a weird one in the sense that this is not an Aeternian sanctioned trade deal. This is a private citizen of a micronation which is receiving Stomarian status in return for goods that they are going to be sending us. And it sets a bit of a strange precedent, I suppose, in that you could go over the heads of the leaders of those micronations, if need be, to directly engage with the citizenry of that micronation. And that's just it's an exciting prospect in that the leaders of micronations, if you don't get along with them for whatever reason, there's no reason necessarily why you can't cooperate or engage with the citizens of that micronation. So that is something that we are going to be keeping in mind going forward. And I look forward to seeing the copper ingots that David sends us. We haven't received them yet, so we will receive them hopefully in the next week or two, and then we will be sending him the Stomarian status, 25 status in all. So that would be 5 stater coins. And the second trade agreement that I want to discuss is one with the Commonwealth of Dunland, a bit closer to home. If I remember correctly, they're in Durham, so sort of northern England. And so they are a fair distance from us, but not so far that these sorts of arrangements and these sorts of engagements can't take place. So they are a micronation which we have been discussing various matters, not trade agreements at all, actually, for some time. But it wasn't until recently when they started to announce or promote the idea that they are producing their own goods, jams and juices and the like. And we sort of cottoned on to that and thought, well, they're a micronation in the British Isles, they're producing goods, and we're looking to establish that trade network. So why not approach them about getting some of those goods sent down to us, because we're in southern England, and we can sample them, and not that there would be anything wrong with them, I'm sure, but we can order them in bulk for the event that we're going to be having next year. And I thought that was going to be a very exciting way to sort of expand Stomaria's reach and its network, because it would allow Stomarian status to flow to the north of England as well as to the United States in the case of the David from Eternia, but it will also provide us goods that we can showcase at the actual the gathering, the event that we're going to be hosting in Southwood, which is a Stomarian protectorate. Now, the idea is that this is going to be the start of something more large scale. So as I say, we have ordered some jams of varying flavours, and we're going to be receiving those hopefully in the next few days. And we've already sent the Stomarian status to the Commonwealth of Dunland because we trust that they have sent them, and they again seem very genuine, very amicable, and very honest. And so we've sent the Stomarian status, they've sent us the jams, and then during the actual event next year, we're hoping to have a display of not just the products and produce from Dunland, but from other micronations as well, to showcase the fact that these are people with certain skills or talents or abilities or the availability of produce to actually create a spread of, you know, various foods or other materials. So we have Lithua, for example, is an external trade partner, but they are producing wines, and they are, because of their position on a river, they'll be able to also source fish like salmon. In Dunland, they seem to be very heavily focused on the agrarian side of things in terms of like jams and juices and that sort of thing, but they also, as I understand it, are involved in some way to be able to acquire breads and butters. So that's also something that's I've got on my radar. But the copper, for instance, from Aeternia from the States, that'll be something else that's featured. But it's just this idea where all of these small elements sort of come together, all these products, all this produce that are created by micronations and micronationalists, and just to show people we can do this ourselves. Now, obviously, there is a cost factor in all of this, in that it is, of course, a lot cheaper for us to buy some jams from the local store or to buy some copper from a local store or whatever else. But the idea is that going forward, as these orders, as these agreements become larger in scale and become more cost effective, we will gradually see a more self-reliant community evolve from this, that are utilising silver Stomarian status. I think nearly a third of Stomarian status are now in circulation across some half a dozen to a dozen micronations, I think. So it's a terrific start, because even though it's all, again, very small in scale, it has potential, and that's what we're keeping an eye on. And the trade agreements that we hope to have in the future are only going to be larger in scale and with more micronations. In fact, we have another micronation in Europe. I'm not going to say too much about it now because there's going to be an announcement video about it, but there's a new associated state that's going to be joining Stomaria shortly and making an announcement before too long. And they have their own land, they have their own produce and their own ideas as to what to make and what to ship out to us. And again, this is going to be something that we build on gradually over time. And this is what Stomaria is about. Stomaria is about establishing trade networks between micronations. That is almost our reason for being. It's about self-reliance, self-determination, utilising sound money, taking ourselves away from the macronational world as much as possible without being too isolationist about it. But I just wanted to make this video, not because we have concluded these trade agreements just yet. They're still maybe a few days or a few weeks out, but I did want to make our supporters aware of the fact that we have reached out to more micronations and we are establishing those ties. So with all that in mind, if you wanted to become a part of the Stomarian community, you can do so through our Patreon campaign, the link of which I shall leave in the description below as always. You can also find the details of the other micronations that make up the Empire of Stomaria or are otherwise affiliated with Stomaria as external trade partners and allies. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.